The locals warned me before I ever set foot in those woods. They said Wexford County had something older than logging camps, older than farms, something that walked upright but howled like a wolf. They called it the Dogman. I laughed when I first heard it. Another piece of campfire folklore, I thought, the kind meant to keep kids from wandering too far. But I wasn't a kid, and I wasn't looking for stories. I was looking for deer. That October night, the air smelled sharp with pine and frost. My boots crunched over fallen leaves, my rifle strapped tight. I had camped by the Manistee River, a quiet spot where the moonlight struck silver through the branches. Nothing moved except the river and the shifting shadows of the pines. It started as a sound, not a howl, not yet. A low growl, deep enough to tremble the ground. I froze, thinking bear. My hand slipped to the rifle. The growl rose higher, stretching long into the night air until it cracked into something else. A howl. It wasn't coyote. It wasn't wolf. It was closer, too close. I held my breath, heart hammering, listening as the sound circled me. The pines carried it in strange echoes, left, right, behind, ahead. My lantern sputtered, throwing nervous sparks across the trees. Then came the steps, heavy, deliberate, 2 at a time. Not on 4 legs, but 2. I swung my light. Between the trees, something massive shifted. A silhouette too tall, shoulders too broad, fur bristling in the pale glow. It stood upright, but the head was wrong. Elongated snout, teeth glinting wet in the moonlight, ears sharp against the stars. The Dogman. My body locked. I couldn't raise the rifle, couldn't move. The creature stepped closer, each stride thudding into the ground. When it opened its mouth, the howl that tore free wasn't animal. It was almost a scream, raw and furious, shaking the marrow of my bones. I bolted. Branches whipped across my face, boots slipping in the leaves. Behind me, I heard it pacing, not running, not rushing, pacing, as if it knew it didn't need to chase, as if it enjoyed watching me run. The river came into view, black and wide. I didn't stop. I crashed through the water, icy spray drenching me, lungs seizing. On the opposite bank, I collapsed, looking back. The tree line was empty but not silent. The howl rose again, long and triumphant, carrying across the water. This time others answered. One from the ridge, another deep in the hollow, a chorus of voices too many to count. I made it back to town at dawn, rifle still strapped, pack dripping wet. When I told the story, the old-timers just nodded. One slapped the bar and said, "First one's always the worst. Once he's seen you, he don't forget." I've never returned to Wexford County, but some nights, even hundreds of miles away, I wake to the sound. Not wolves, not coyotes. A howl, long, human, and hungry. The Mackinac Bridge has its own voice. If you've ever driven it at night, you know what I mean. The steel hums with the wind, the cables groan, and the water below churns like something restless. It's 5 miles of emptiness above a black lake, and when midnight rolls in, you feel as if you're the only person left alive. That night I was on a long-haul run, hauling across Michigan toward the Upper Peninsula. The clock on my dash read 12:04. Rain spit against the windshield, my wipers dragging slow arcs. The bridge stretched ahead, endless steel and dim lamps glowing yellow in the fog. I saw her halfway across. At first, just a flicker of white in the headlights, something pale moving against the shadows. Then she came into full view. A woman in a long white dress, hair plastered to her face, barefoot on the wet concrete. She walked straight down the lane as if traffic didn't exist. I hit the brakes, horn blaring. My rig rattled as I swerved, tires screaming against the slick pavement. She didn't flinch, didn't even look at me. She just kept walking, slow, steady, eyes fixed on the far end of the bridge. My heart slammed in my throat. I leaned on the horn again, lights blazing across her back. Nothing, not even a twitch. When I finally rolled past her, I looked into the side mirror. The lane behind me was empty, gone. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles whitened, sweat cold across my spine. Maybe the rain played tricks. Maybe I imagined her. That's what I told myself. But 2 miles later, as I reached the toll plaza, my headlights struck something again. White. She stood by the rail now, staring out at the black water below. Same soaked dress, same bent posture, hair dripping into her face. I slowed, window down, my voice shaking. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need help?" She turned. Her face was pale, features blurred, but her eyes, Her eyes were the clearest thing I've ever seen. Black as the lake, deep enough to drown me right there. Her lips parted, and in a voice thin as the wind, she whispered, "He never made it across." Then she was gone, just gone. The space where she stood was empty. Only the sound of water smashing against pylons carried through the fog. I sped through the toll, didn't look back once. By the time I hit the UP, dawn had started bleeding into the sky. Later, at a diner in St. Ignace, I told the waitress what I'd seen. She didn't blink, just refilled my coffee and said, "You're not the first." There's stories. A car went off the bridge back in '69. They never found him. She's still looking. Now every time I cross the Mackinac at night, I keep my eyes straight ahead. I don't check the mirrors. I don't slow down, because some passengers don't belong on this side of the water. Hell, Michigan wears its name like a joke. Tourists stop for photos by the sign, buy souvenirs, laugh about going to hell and back. But the locals know better. They know some things in hell don't stay buried. I learned it the hard way. There's a small cemetery just outside town, tucked into a grove of crooked oaks. Most stones lean at odd angles, names rubbed away by rain and moss. But one grave stands apart. The headstone is plain, no carving, no date, just a slab of black rock sunk deep into the earth. People call it the cursed grave. The caretaker told me we cover it, it opens. We pack the soil, something pushes it loose again. I thought he was exaggerating. Graves sink over time, dirt shifts. That's all. I went to see it myself. Sure enough, the mound was disturbed, soil pushed upward, as if something inside kept pressing against the lid. The caretaker shook his head, muttered, "We fill it every week." That night, curiosity ate at me. I came back with a lantern. The cemetery was silent, only the wind whispering through the oaks. The cursed grave looked worse by lamplight. Cracked earth, claw-like roots curling from the ground. I knelt, brushing my hand over the soil, still damp from the morning's rain. That's when I felt it, a vibration. Faint at first, then stronger, like something knocking beneath the ground. My breath froze. I pressed my ear to the soil. 3 knocks, slow and deliberate. I stumbled back, lantern swinging. The earth shifted. A crack split across the mound, dark soil spilling like breath. The caretaker's words echoed, "We cover it, it opens." I should have run. Instead, I waited. The crack widened. Fingers broke the surface, pale, brittle, skin like wax. They clawed through the dirt, one after another, until a whole hand reached free. I dropped the lantern. Flames licked the grass. I bolted through the trees, branches slashing my face. Behind me, I heard the earth tearing open. Not the sound of soil falling, the sound of something climbing out. By the time I reached the road, the fire was burning behind me, shadows twitching in the flames. I didn't stop running until Hell's one gas station came into view. The clerk asked why I looked like I'd seen the devil. Maybe I had. The next morning, I drove past the cemetery. The fire was out. The grave? Perfectly covered. Soil smoothed as if nothing had happened. Only the headstone remained, black and silent. I told the sheriff. He sighed, said, "Happens every few years. Don't go back." I didn't. But sometimes, late at night, I dream of those knocks. 3, slow, patient. And I wonder how long before that grave opens again. And stays open. Lake Superior is not a lake at night. It's an ocean of black glass, endless and merciless. People vanish there. Boats sink without a trace. Locals say the water takes what it wants, and sometimes it sends something back. I was camping on the south shore near Marquette. My tent pitched just beyond the tree line. The fire crackled low, wind biting off the water. I sat with my coffee, listening to waves smash against the rocks. At first I thought I was alone. Then I noticed the pacing. A figure moved along the shoreline, just outside the firelight, back and forth, back and forth. The shape kept circling the edge of the waves. At first I thought it was another camper. But the longer I watched, the stranger it became. The figure was tall, too tall. Shoulders narrow, arms long, head cocked at an unnatural angle. It never bent, never stumbled over the rocks. Its stride was smooth, gliding, as if its feet didn't touch the ground. I whispered to myself, "It's just shadows, just tricks of the fire." But then it stopped. The figure turned toward me. Even at that distance, I felt its eyes. They glowed faintly like glass catching moonlight. My fire sputtered. The air turned damp and cold, heavy with the scent of wet stone. I grabbed my flashlight, swung the beam across the shoreline. Nothing, only the waves. But when I lowered the light, the figure was closer. Closer and still pacing. Back and forth, never blinking, never breaking stride. I tried to shout. My throat closed. The fire hissed low, as if the lake itself was breathing against it. I could only sit frozen, while the figure drew nearer, every pass tightening its circle around my camp. At last I staggered into the trees, lantern shaking in my hand. I made for the trailhead, branches tearing at my arms, the sound of the waves fading, but behind me in the dark the footsteps followed. Not fast, not rushed, just steady. When I broke through to the parking lot, my truck stood waiting. I dove inside, locked the doors, breath clouding the glass. For a long moment I thought I was safe. Then I saw it, standing at the tree line, half hidden by shadow. Tall, thin, head cocked, watching. Its eyes caught the glow of my headlights, bright as wet stone. I slammed the engine into gear and tore out of there, gravel spitting under my tires. In the mirror, the shoreline grew small. Still, I swear I saw it pacing, back and forth until the road swallowed the night. The next morning, Ranger said no one else camped there. No footprints, no fire pits but mine. I laughed too loud, trying to sound sane. But inside I knew the truth. Some shadows belonged to the night, and some walked the shores of Lake Superior, waiting for anyone foolish enough to look back. To Story 5, the asylum attic where voices still answer in Kalamazoo. There's an old asylum on the edge of Kalamazoo, boarded up since the 1970s. Most of the windows are smashed. The roof caved in, weeds choking the drive, but the locals say one part of it still breathes, the attic. I was a student at Western Michigan back then, bored, restless, chasing thrills with friends. We'd heard the stories, how patients were left in the attic when there wasn't space below, how the walls soaked up their screams, how even now you could hear them if you listened too long. We didn't believe it, of course, but disbelief is a thin coat when curiosity claws underneath. The night we went, the air was heavy with rain. The asylum loomed above the trees, black against a cloudy sky. We broke in through a side window, our flashlights cutting across peeling paint, broken gurneys, papers scattered like leaves. Every hallway reeked of mildew and rust. The attic door was worse. It was metal, chained once but broken long ago. Carved into the wood was one word: quiet. I laughed nervously, shoving it open. The air inside was different, thicker, colder. The beam of my flashlight caught dust hanging in sheets, swirling as if disturbed. We climbed the steps, each one groaning under our weight. The attic was long, narrow, lined with forgotten beds. The ceiling sloped low, rafters thick with cobwebs. That's when we heard it. "Hello?" A voice, thin, childlike, from the far end. We froze, lights swinging. Nobody, just empty beds and shadows. One of my friends whispered, "Who's there?" The reply came instantly. "Who's there?" Not mocking, not echoing, answering. The air pressed heavier. I felt it in my chest, like breathing underwater. I tried to laugh it off, my voice cracking. "Say something else." And it did. Something else. We bolted. The attic seemed longer now, the shadows deeper. Every step we took, the voice followed. Sometimes ahead, sometimes behind. Always just out of sight. By the time we hit the stairwell, one of my friends swore something tugged his sleeve. He screamed, tripping hard, blood smearing across the steps. But he didn't stop. None of us did. We spilled into the hall, panting, flashlights swinging. For a moment, silence returned. Then from above, we heard it again. Faint, distant, but clear. "Don't go." We didn't look back. We didn't breathe until we hit the car. Later, when I told a professor about it, he went pale. Said the attic was once used as overflow during a flu outbreak in the 1930s. Dozens died there, left in rows under the beams. They say their last words echoed in the rafters, carried forward by something that never left. It's been years since that night, but I can still hear it. The voice calm, patient, still waiting. And sometimes when I lie awake in bed, the dark pressing in, I swear I hear it whisper, "Hello?" US 12 cuts straight across Michigan, a long ribbon of blacktop that feels older than the cars that travel it. People say it used to be a native trail, then a wagon road, and that the land remembers every traveler who never made it home. It's the kind of highway that looks empty even when you're not alone. I was driving it one night in late summer, windows down, radio low. The moon hung heavy, fog curling along the ditches. That's when I saw him. A man walking the shoulder, thumb out, head low. He wore a dark coat, too heavy for August, boots caked with dirt. His hair was long, face pale in the headlights. I slowed, rolled to the side, and leaned across to push the door open. "Where you headed?" I asked. He climbed in without a word, movement stiff. The smell hit me first. Damp earth, wet leaves, like he'd just crawled out of the woods. He kept his eyes on the dash, silent. We drove. For a while, the only sound was the hum of tires. Finally, I tried again. "You all right? You need a ride to town?" He turned his head then, slowly, and looked at me. His eyes were black. Not dark brown. Not shadowed. Black, the whole of them, shining like wet stones. My hands clenched the wheel. He opened his mouth as if to speak. What came out wasn't words. It was the sound of dirt shifting, a shovel striking rock, soil pouring down. I nearly ran off the road. My heart slammed, sweat breaking across my face. When I looked again, the passenger seat was empty. I slammed the brakes, swerving onto the shoulder, breathing hard. The door was closed. The seatbelt still buckled. No sign anyone had been there. I told myself I was overtired, losing it. I drove on, shaking, headlights cutting weak through the fog. But a mile later, I saw him again. Same dark coat, same bent posture. Thumb out. I didn't stop this time. I pressed the gas, eyes locked ahead. But as I passed, his head snapped up. His black eyes met mine and his lips curled into a smile that wasn't human. By the time I reached the next town, dawn was breaking. I pulled into a diner, hands trembling so badly I could barely lift the coffee. The waitress asked if I was all right. When I told her what I'd seen, she just nodded. US 12s always had hitchhikers. Problem is, some of them never get where they're going. Now, whenever I drive that road, I keep my doors locked and my eyes straight ahead. Because on US 12, if you stop, you might pick up something you can't drop off. There's a stretch of forest outside Traverse City where the trees grow too close, their branches knitting together to block out the sun. Hunters avoid it, hikers skip it. In the center stands a cabin no one claims, one that feels older than the land around it. Locals whisper about it, but they never linger. They say it's the mirrors inside. I found it by accident. A storm drove me off the trail, rain turning the earth to black mud. By dusk, lightning revealed the outline of a roof. I pushed through the brush and there it was. A cabin, leaning but intact, its shutters flapping like wings in the wind. I should have walked on, but the rain came harder. I forced the swollen door open and stepped inside. The first thing I noticed wasn't the smell of mildew or the rot of the beams. It was the mirrors, dozens of them nailed to the walls. Some tall, some small, some cracked, each one draped with cloth, heavy fabric that stirred as though it breathed. A single lantern hung from the ceiling, its flame low, shadows long. I told myself someone was squatting here, someone strange but harmless. I closed the door, shook off the rain, and set down my pack. That night, I woke to the sound of fabric sliding. I sat up in my bedroll, the storm pounding outside. One of the cloths had fallen. The mirror beneath was tall, warped, but clear enough to show me. Only it wasn't me. The reflection sat where I was, same posture, same clothes, but its face was wrong, pale, gaunt, eyes hollow black. Its lips stretched into a smile I didn't wear. I scrambled forward, hands shaking, and threw the cloth back over. The smile lingered in my mind long after the glass was hidden. At dawn, I told myself it was exhaustion. I packed my things, ready to leave. But when I reached the door, every cloth had slipped from the mirrors. Every single one. The room filled with faces. Some my own, twisted and dead-eyed. Others strangers, their mouths open in silent screams. One reached a hand to the glass, and the glass rippled. I ran. The storm had passed, but the woods felt worse. The trees leaned inward, the air wet and heavy. Behind me, the cabin door slammed, though no wind blew. When I finally made it back to town, soaked and breathless, I told the old man at the bait shop what I'd seen. He shook his head, muttered, "That place again." He said the cabin belonged to a trapper once, a man who believed mirrors were windows for the dead. He nailed them up to keep them close, to keep their voices near. When he died, the mirrors stayed. So did the faces. I never went back, but sometimes when I pass a mirror at night, I pause. I check. Because once in Traverse City, I saw a face that wasn't mine, and it smiled back. Detroit has plenty of ruins. Factories, schools, houses left to rot. But the one that stayed with me wasn't a ruin at all. It was a church, Small red brick, steeple leaning but unbroken. From the outside it looked abandoned, yet the bell tower still stood sharp against the skyline. Locals said the doors had been locked since the 1980s. I was part of an urban exploration group back then, the kind that sneaks into forgotten places with flashlights and cameras. We heard rumors about the church, about a bell that still rang in the middle of the night, though no rope hung in the tower. Some said it tolled for funerals that never happened. Others said it tolled to call the dead. We laughed it off, until we went inside. The front doors were chained, but a basement window had long since cracked. We squeezed through, flashlights cutting across the damp stone. The air smelled of mold and rusted iron. Old hymnals lay scattered, pages curling with mildew. At first it was silent, just our boots crunching on broken glass. Then faintly it came, the low toll of a bell. Gong. The sound rattled the pipes overhead. We froze, exchanging looks. No wind, no movement, yet the bell carried clear as if rung above us. We climbed the stairs to the main hall. Pews sat in neat rows, dust thick enough to coat our shoes. Candles melted into black puddles lined the altar. And there, at the far end, a trap door yawned open, steps descending into deeper dark. That's when it tolled again. Gong. The sound came from below. Not the tower. The basement. Against my better judgment, I led the way down. The stairs were narrow, stone slick with moisture. At the bottom was a room too wide for its place, lined with brick arches, air heavy with incense long burned away. And there it stood, an iron bell. Too large to move, chained to the ceiling beams. No rope, no striker, yet the metal still trembled, humming low. I whispered, "How?" Then we heard them. Whispers, dozens of voices rising from the shadows. They spoke in unison, too faint to catch words, too many to be echoes. My flashlight beam wavered across the walls and lit on carvings. Dozens of names etched deep into brick, some so fresh they cut through the dust. The bell shook harder. Gong. This time it rang through our chests. My friend clutched his ears, swearing he heard his name in the voices. Another staggered back, pale as wax, whispering, "They're calling." We didn't wait to find out who. We bolted, tripping over steps, smashing through the pews. The bell tolled again, each strike faster, louder, chasing us up into the night. Only when we burst back into the street did it stop. Later, I asked an old priest about the church. He shook his head, muttered that it was condemned for unholy rites. Said the bell was never meant for the living. Sometimes, late at night in Detroit, people still claim they hear it. Not from the tower, but deep beneath the earth. And if you hear your name in the toll, they say, it's already too late.